Okay. Hello, everybody. Kadri here. We are live. Happy Father's Day. And I'm coming to you from Costa Rica. This is my third Facebook Live. And we have a special edition. And we have a guest here. His name is Mateo. He's a good friend of mine. And he's a super hard-oriented, lovely human being who's doing an amazing work in this world. And I asked him to come on to this broadcast to have conversations with me about what it means to have self-love as a man in this world. So that's going to be the topic that we're going to be discussing. Before we go there, before I bring Mateo on, I want to just talk a little bit about the last broadcast that I did, which was on forgiveness practice in 3 directions. A lot of people were asking, questions that really were relative to how much they should do it or when they should do it. And what I want to really speak to is that it can be a lifelong practice to make the forgiveness practice in 3 directions a lifelong practice. It's make it a daily habit, and make it like you're brushing your teeth, or you're taking a shower, or you bathe, or you eat. It's a way that you look at it as a way to take care of oneself. Okay, and so hello everybody. As you come on, go ahead and throw a little hearts on there. We love to see those little hearts, little buttons and smiley faces go off. So please let us know you're here when you come on. And so the topic for today is going to be on self-love and what it really means for self-love. And I'm going to bring Mateo on right now. I'm going to figure out how to do this. Shift. Click. There we go. Hi, Mateo.
Hey, Kadri.
How are you? Everybody, I want you to meet Mateo. Awesome.
Hi, everybody.
There we go. Mateo is coming to us from California, from the LA area. And I just want to, it's interesting, when I was thinking about self-love and how I would love to do a Facebook Live on self-love.
I like Facebook Love. This is a Facebook Love.
And so every time I thought about it, it was just like, wow, it would be really cool if I did it with someone else. And every time that thought came up, Mateo just kept popping into my consciousness, and I reached out to him. He just totally embraced it. He's like, oh man, what a great topic, and let's do it. And so we had conversations around it, and we planned on doing this together. And this is something really important to both of us. And it's important for us as not only as men, it's important for us as human beings, and how we move through this world, and how we are held, and how we hold other people. I was surfing this morning. I was out in the water, and I'm like thinking, okay, doing this, Facebook Live thing. It's a new thing now. This is like the 3rd time I'm doing a Facebook Live. I'm kind of getting used to it. Yet now I'm doing something completely different. I'm doing it with a friend, as an interview and a conversation kind of a thing. And so I'm like, okay, I'm excited about that. And then I thought, okay, well, what is self-love really? Like, holy shit! Like I know in my heart what self-love is. I know what it, I've experienced it. I can have dialogue around it. But if you were to ask me what is self-love, what does that mean to me? It was really hard for me. It took me some time in the water in between catching waves to have a little bit of clarity on that. And so what I came up with is that it's as men, I'll speak to this as men, what I have found is that the way that I have been conditioned in our society through all of our environment as growing up, there's been a lot of emphasis on having to be in my mind, to be strong, to be powerful. You have to be powerful. You have to be strong to be powerful. You have to be really smart. You have to think your way through things. You power your way. All of those things. What it did was it kept me from really experiencing my experience in the moment, which could be either my physical body, taking care of my body, or it could be the taking care of my emotions. When emotions came up, I didn't reject them. So if you were to ask me in really short encapsulated way, what is self-love? I really believe that it's aligning our mind with our emotional body, with our physical body, where it really opens up to our spirit, the knowing that we have within us, which we call in the heart. So that's kind of what I came up with this morning, if I was to just explain it in a short, quick way. So having said that, I want to introduce Mateo. Mateo, what you got, brother?
Hi. Thank you, Kadri. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that this is a very important topic, often overlooked, especially as men. In a way, culturally, my experience has been that a lot of people leave emotional intelligence and leave conversations about love to the more feminine creatures in our species, and so as men. Definitely my experience has been that emotions are to be pushed away, to be overcome with logic and reason. In fact, I don't know how many times I've stepped into an uncomfortable situation, had a very legitimate emotional reaction, and within 2 seconds, I've like put my mask on and I'm shielding everybody else from experiencing whatever my emotion is. Maybe I'm uncomfortable, maybe I'm angry, maybe I'm scared, maybe I'm really happy, and like I feel that surge of happiness, but I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm cool. Yeah, it's nice to meet you, person I respect, and I got to keep it cool. Got to keep it like let's be witty, let's be logical, but God forbid we be emotional in any way. And I agree with you. I think that it's really a matter of, on a conceptual level, honoring those emotions that come up and being willing to say like, I'm really feeling happy right now, or like, you know what, honestly, like the way that you're talking right now scares me, or I'm feeling really angry about that thing that just happened. Instead of being like, no, I'm cool. Yeah, I'm a little tired, but other than that, I'm good. And for me personally, I thought I had self-love down, like growing up in a home where my dad read me equal parts, like Grimm's fairy tales and Bible stories and Carlos Castaneda and Zig Ziglar. I thought I had that whole world down, especially as I got into teaching meditation and yoga and practicing acro yoga and connection, and yet I started noticing a trend a few years back that every romantic relationship I was in, I found it really hard to trust my partner. I thought that this woman was trying to take something from me, that my girlfriend was only with me so that she could come to classes for free, or because I was really good at helping her process her emotions, or like whatever gift I was offering, I was like, that's the only reason you're here. That there's no way you could be here for me. It was a problem, and I wanted to dig into it, and so I did so through my men's group. I did so through writing. I did so like very intellectually. And then I was in Thailand, and I made a friend in Thailand, and she was a wonderful human being. We ran around, we had all kinds of adventures together, and I went to meet her on this island, and I got the story in my head that she didn't want to be around me because she she needed to rest on a couple of occasions. So when I was like, hey, let's go out and do this thing, she was like, actually, I'm going to hang back and get some sleep tonight. Or I'm going to go, like, I really need to connect with one of my like girlfriends in Germany. So I'm going to take this phone call instead of going down to the beach with you. And I took those little boundaries as rejections and formed the story that she didn't want me around. So I started unconsciously punishing her for not wanting me to be there, and I withdrew, and I became very isolated, and in the process became miserable. And so it was like 2 days, two and a half days of me just being miserable and not being able to have a conversation about it, because I was like, well, you don't want me around anyway, so why am I going to talk to you about what's happening inside for me? And then finally, it was the day that she was flying out of Thailand back home to Germany, and I noticed that she was kind of dragging. She was clearly not having a great experience. And so I checked in. I was like, hey, what's going on with you? You seem sad. What's happening? And she was like, things are hard with you right now, and that makes it really hard for me. I was like, okay, well, that's funny. I wouldn't think that you would care about what's happening for me, because you don't seem to want me around. And she was like, are you kidding? I've done so much to try to include you, to open up. Like I've, invited you to lunches, and we've sat down and had deep conversations with my friends. I keep loving you, and you don't see it. In fact, I've heard you tell so many stories about people being mean to you, or people casting you out, or rejecting you. And the fact is, all these people love you, and you don't love yourself. And that's why you can't receive the love that other people are giving you. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I mean, I felt like she just took like a universal acupuncture needle and right through the heart, just staked me to the ground like a vampire. And I knew it was true, but I didn't know what to do about it, because in my rational mind, I was like, oh yeah, I've got self-love down. In fact, like, every time I'd see somebody post on Facebook, I'm really working on self-love today, I'd be like, stupid. Like, you got to work on that. You just straight up love yourself. That's it. So I Googled, how do you love yourself? And I found a bunch of articles. Apparently I'm not the only one who's faced this demon. And the things that I found were so surprisingly simple. They were practices that I started putting into play right away, and still use to this day. I'm proud to say that I definitely have a much better relationship with myself. I'm nowhere near as mean to me as I have been in the past. And it's because I wake up every day and I do the things that I would do for somebody else that I love. So if I love somebody, whether they're a friend or a partner, I make them food. I make delicious meals for them. I tell them frequently, like, I'll look at them and be like, man, you're a beautiful woman. You're a phenomenal human being. I love the way you laugh. I love the way you speak. I love whatever I love about them, I tell them that. And yet, like, how many of us wake up in the morning and journal or look in the mirror and go, you know what? You have great hair. Your smile lights up a room. You know what, me? I love you. And yet, like, as silly as these things sound, when I started actually doing those things, like sitting down in my morning pages, instead of like processing through all the things that needed to happen for the day, or like all the emotional stuff from yesterday, just start off like, good morning, Mateo. I love you. These are the things that are great about you. I love the way you communicate. I love the way that you write. You're great with people. When you step in front of a classroom, you really light up, and other people are positively influenced by you. Like, those simple reminders are such powerful practices of self-love for me, like loving myself the way I would love another.
So it's really interesting thank you, Mateo. It's really interesting that how when we look in the mirror and we say these things to ourselves, it just seems so counterintuitive. I mean, I've done that before, and I went through a process 20 years ago that I'm like, okay, I'm going to work on self-love, and I actually didn't really understand what self-love was at the time, and didn't realize there was so much more work to do. And so I would get in front of the mirror and I would sit there and I would do that. And, and this thing would come up, and the self-judgment would come in. I'm like, and I absolutely I could not continue doing it. And then, so one of the first time, similar to your awakening experience that you had in Thailand, mine was 15 years ago. I went into retreat. And before I get into the story, hello everybody that's showing up. Throw us a little button, say hello, and please tell us where you're coming from. And at any time, if you have any kind of an act of self-love that you may have done for yourself that's super simple and that may inspire others, please write it and throw it in so that other people can see what it is that that other people are doing to love themselves. So please.
Yeah, I'm really curious to hear what other people's self-love practices are, because it's an ever-going thing. It's like in the same way that we need to keep a romantic relationship fresh with new practices and new experiences. Yeah. We have to keep this relationship fresh. Yeah. So I'm really curious. So yeah, like Audrey was saying, if you have something that works really well for you that's really simple, please let me know about it.
Yeah. And don't forget that whatever notes that you put on here right now, whatever comments that you put on right now, will stay here for the rebroadcast. So other people, when they watch it from this moment on in the future, will be able to see and read what it is that you put on there. So you'll be helping people and helping us for a long time coming. Okay? So I'll get to my awakening experience. I love the way that you were talking about the Chinese medicine needle, the Maha needle getting you in the aha spot. Beautiful. So I was in retreat when my first one happened, and I've had a couple of them. I was in retreat, and it was a pretty semi-solitary retreat, and it was a long-term retreat. And what happens when you go into retreat, the first thing is you're faced with yourself. And I didn't have any crutches to fall back on. I mean, I had been doing a lot of the emotional work and a lot of the purification healing work, and I had a lot of the practices that supported the self-love in place, and I was working on it. And a part of that was because I didn't have any escapes. I was in retreat. Like when the shit was coming up, when I was faced with my stuff, I had to be present with all of my emotions and all my feelings. Anything that was coming up. Okay, this was a healing process, and this was purification, like Maha purification. So I spent literally like 2 months crying, sobbing, laughing, screaming, reliving all of these emotions that I had rejected and stuffed away. And they were having the opportunity to come up for me to experience and work through them. Yeah. And I remember specifically this one time, I had done this practice and this meditation practice, and it was like the first time I had felt love. That it was just in every cell of my body. It was pervading every part of my thoughts, my consciousness, my body, my feelings, my emotions. It was just everywhere, and I'm being a witness to this happening. And it was just so, and I'm like, wow, this is it. This is what they talk about. This is self-love. I'm experiencing self-love. And then I started dancing around in my living room. Like you would never catch me dancing with myself in the fucking living room. Like I'm fucking dancing with myself in the living room. I'm doing it. And so I go into the bathroom to pee. As I walk in, the mirror is on my left, and this is so powerful for me. The mirror is on my left. I look in the mirror and I go, wow, you're so beautiful. It just came out. Wow, you're so beautiful. I was just feeling myself, it was just I felt so radiant and so beautiful. And then immediately this voice that came in and said, don't be so conceited. And I went,
Mm.
whoa, I gotcha. I caught it. I caught it in real time. I caught the self-judge in real time. And there was a separation between
Yeah.
my experience of who I really am, my awareness of being aware of that experience, and that part of me, that's a part of me I can't reject, was coming in believing that it was going to protect me by telling me, like, hey, don't be so fucking conceited, and like, people will think that you're full of yourself, blah blah blah, whatever. And it was really a beautiful moment. I can't put into words how powerful that was for me to catch that part. And I'm like, okay, I gotcha, thank you for that. So that was my first aha moment around self-love. And
Yeah.
as far as the practice goes, it's like rejecting feelings. Every time I have an emotion or a feeling that starts coming up inside of me, I do my best to honor it. I do my best to stay with it. Even if it confuses me or it scares me, or makes me angry or resentful. I just try to keep that gap, that little bit of a gap, to where I can be aware of the experience happening. And it brings me back from the future or the past, regretting the past or getting stuck in, fearing the future. So it just brings me back. Just that momentary blip in time is just enough for me to be able to be present. That doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to work through the emotion. It doesn't mean that that I'm going to reject it. At least I'm giving it the space that it needs.
Right. Well, and Kadri, you bring up something very important there, which is just the simple acknowledgement of that emotion. Because emotions are strong. They are evolutionarily required to be strong. Because if a tiger's coming at you and the fear hits you, like, you got to go now.
Yeah.
And yet those same emotions that keep us safe in those life-threatening situations can also completely derail us in a situation where we're trying to reach for something greater, where we're trying to step up and become something more than what we were before. Those same emotions go like, whoa, 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 everything was cool. Like, we don't have to change anything. Everything was good. What are you doing? And to simply acknowledge in that moment, I feel fear, or I feel sadness, or I feel anger. It helps us to detach from that emotion, not in a way that we like stuff it down and say like, that's not okay for me to experience that right now, but to just say like, this is what I'm experiencing. I am acknowledging that this experience is here, because it's in my experience, the stuffing of those emotions, the complete negating them, like knowing that I'm angry, but saying like, no, I'm good. Everything's okay. That makes me angrier, because then I'm not self-expressed. I'm not honoring myself. And the little boy inside of me is like, dude, I am pissed. Why are you trying to silence me right now? That's not okay. Like when I see little kids throwing a temper tantrum and a grown up comes in and is like, stop doing that. Boy, they flip out.
Yeah, even more.
Yeah. Whereas when grown-ups come in and the kids throwing a tantrum and they're like, okay, like, what's real for you right now? What are you experiencing? What's happening for you? Then the kid can process the emotion right there on the spot and let it transmute, let it change to something else. So yeah, I love what you're speaking to there. The simple acknowledgement of the emotion is in and of itself an act of self-love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfectly. It's not that complicated. It's just really not that complicated. And the thinking mind will come in and it will complicate the shit out of this whole everything. And it's so simple. All of the greatest things in life that are going to bring us joy and happiness are really simple. And if we leave it up to the mind to try to figure out how to get it, it just makes things a little bit more complicated and messy and whatever. Mateo, I want to talk about what it is, like the old paradigm. You and I were talking about how, like, what is it that how we were as men in this modern world, we are the shoulds and the shouldn'ts. Like, what is it? How do we reject our experience? So what are some of the ways that are, I know there's going to be some people out there, if they watch this, they're going to say, oh, self-love, that's selfish. Or,
Right.
self-love for men, that's weakness.
Right. Right.
Vulnerability, that's weakness, is equated with weakness, which is completely, on the contrary, it actually becomes more powerful. So
Yeah.
what do you have, what are your thoughts on some of those ways that are the old paradigm of how we were conditioned into thinking that we needed to be a certain way, that was really limiting us to be fully who we are?
Right. Right. I One thing that I have experienced as a man in this world is when I have felt sad, when I have felt scared, the message there from outside or in my head is suck it up, sack up, be a man. Like you got to handle this. I was just speaking with my sister the other day, and she said that one of her favorite authors says that the question that's on a man's mind, implanted by society or born into to testosterone coursing through our stream, I don't know. But the question is, do I have what it takes to handle this? Do I have what it takes? Is the ever present? And when she said that, it really rang true for me. And the experience of living with that question, and then being in a culture that looks to me, as especially as a large man, to be strong and to be the rock, is to feel like the more burden I can shoulder, the more of a man I am. The more pain I can bear, the more manly I am. The better capable I am to handle whatever life throws at me. And there is an essence of importance there. Like we do as humans have to deal with things, and sometimes that means dealing with a lot of discomfort to survive each day, to make it to the next day and breathe that first morning's breath of the new dawn. And there is truth to the fact that as a masculine being, I do grow through discomfort. It's when I encounter discomfort and tap into my inner resources that I grow. And I think that's something that's there for all humans. But the pitfall there, the danger that I've experienced, is that then I end up subconsciously seeking more pain to bear, and more burdens to take on, and in so doing, I don't honor my own boundaries. I don't honor that. If I'm like going into somebody else's space and I'm not good internally, I'm like already troubled in some way. If I'm going in and trying to fix problems for other people in order to feel better about myself, I'm going to mess up their situation more, and I'm going to do damage to myself. I mean, even physically, like I have a knot here on my wrist that came from tearing my connective tissue in my wrist from doing acrobatics with somebody, and I didn't want to say, I'm tired, we need to stop. So I just pushed through and ended up compromising my form and taking their weight in my hand in an unsupported way that caused an actual injury. And now I'm less able to be strong for people because I was trying to be stronger than I needed to be in a moment, and just that fast ripped something, and which compromises my structural integrity.
It's interesting how it's one of the things that being a bigger person, and physical stature, a man, it's like it's been really hard for me to say no, and it's been really difficult for me to ask for help. And so, it's like there's so many different ways that, we could talk about, self-love is, okay, you don't need to have that third glass of wine, or you don't need to eat the box of cookies, or, whatever your poison is, it's like
Right.
we can make decisions on that are healthy for our body, not only our emotional body, but our physical body. And and then yet there's these, or take a bath. I can take a bath as an act of self-love, and yet there are these really subtle ways that I find super, super hard for me to, like, I don't catch it until I work through it and I stay with the feelings and the emotions around it, which is a big one for me lately, has been asking for help. And this is just something that I took on from my conditioning, and it's like, and ultimately for me, what I'm finding is that more and more that all of these, it just comes down to, like, am I good enough? Like, whatever I do, is it going to be good enough?
Right.
Should I do that, or should I not do that? Or, it's like what is it based on? It's based on, societal norms, and it's based on other people's, assumptions and judgments and belief systems. So I'm really like, I'm really like finding that even creating space for myself to experience an emotion is an act of self-love. It's a fairly subtle thing. Or not eating the whole box of cookies is an act of self-love. And it seems like it's an ongoing practice that is constantly, it's going to be there always, and it's just going to constantly be coming up for me,
Yeah, that's funny that you say, that it is an ongoing practice, because I know that I'll get one of those big aha moments, like you were talking about the maha needle in the aha, and then think like, okay, cool, well, I got it now. Like, I got that lesson, I'm good. I don't need to do anything to carry it forward, and think that, like, everything's gravy because I remember that one lesson that I got. But it is an ongoing daily thing. I think it's especially pertinent, given that it's Father's Day today, that we're talking about this and the importance of practices, and what I heard you speaking to in taking a bath, in not eating the whole box of cookies, and not drinking that third glass of wine is really boundaries. And I know my father made a lot of concessions in order to take care of us kids. And I see fathers doing it all the time, like working at a job that they hate just to keep money coming in the door to take care of their children, or not respecting their own need for personal alone time, and then snapping at their kids for being kids. I've seen it in my friends who are like loving, beautiful men, and they don't take any time for themselves. And then I'm over to dinner, and the kids are like, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy," and they're like, "What? What do you need?" And it's like, there was no need to bring that kind of fierceness to that child for being a kid, but they finally crossed over the closest boundary. And I noticed that that's when I get short with people. That's when I stop being so loving to people, is when I'm not exercising good boundaries along the way. And that was taught to me by my father, which was taught to him by his father. And if we're going to continue to evolve in the way that we want to as a species, as human beings, it's important for us to practice self-leadership and guide ourselves lovingly into good choices, into good decisions, so that we can take care of ourselves. And it really comes down to, again, in my experience, knowing what I want. I heard somebody a long time ago say the number one reason that people don't get what they want is because they don't know what they want. And I've certainly been uncomfortable, and somebody's like, well, what do you want? What do you need? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just like, I'm just agitated. I'm just uncomfortable. And when I really settle into it, I want the basic things. I want to be loved. I want to be seen. I want to be heard. I want to feel respected. I want to be warm. I want to be fed. I want to know that I'm safe. And when we practice good boundaries around these things and take care of ourselves, we're able to, like, that is an act of love for ourselves, which then enables us to be more loving to the rest of the world. And I think that the impact of not doing that is everywhere. It's the wars that we wage. It's like really, what is a war but a strong man, a leader, throwing a tantrum, like not getting what he wants, and feel like you have to go out and like punch some other country in the face and take their stuff because I don't have enough. When the reality is, we have everything that we need.
Yeah.
We are surrounded if we will only open our arms and say yes. Thank you. That is what I want. That is what I need. And I receive it, and I thank you because I'm worthy of receiving it. I mean, like, the rabbit hole goes deep, bro.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so thank you for that, Mateo. I want to invite the audience into asking any questions. Please do.
Oh, it's Q&A time?
Yes, Q&A time.
Yay, Q&A time.
And in the meantime, while we wait, there's a 10-second lag in the Facebook Live and what we're doing. So before we see anything come up, there's a little bit of an awkward time for us. And what I really want to do in that time now, before we get any questions, is to talk about just a little bit of a recap on some of what we had talked about. I mean, if we were to, let's say, take out of all of the things that we talked about and put into a simple sentence, and how we could inspire or support and help others in how to simply bring the act of self-love into our lives.
Yeah. Did you want to recap, or did you want to
just recap while I read?
Yeah. Well, Kadri, what are some of your favorite ways of bringing self-love into your life? What are your bullet points?
Well, the thing for me is ultimately it comes down to meditation. If I can, all of the different practices that I've been doing for, since I've been introduced to the meditation world, it's just simply bringing my attention into the present moment. It's just bottom line. And everything that I want and desire is really in the present moment. Otherwise, it's like something I'm regretting from the past, or I'm trying to change something in the past,
Right.
or I'm fearing, or I'm grasping at something in the future. So, if I was to just give one, I don't want to use the word advice, but if I was to give any kind of a nugget out there for somebody to use as a practice, it would be to use meditation, just simple meditation practice. Even if it's simply while you're driving, make a commitment that I'm going to follow my breath for the next 30 seconds, and then if a thought comes up, I'm going to be aware of it, I'm going to acknowledge it. Simple. Right. That's it. Straightforward.
Yeah. And what I really hear you saying inside of that is you're spending some quality time with yourself. In much the same way that you would be really present with someone that you love, with with one of your children or with your girlfriend. You're not sitting there thinking about a million other things, or like scrolling on your phone while they're trying to talk to you. Like, you're giving them your full presence. What I hear you talking about with meditation is that you're giving yourself your full presence. You're giving yourself your attention. I find that to be immensely powerful.
Yeah. That's where the opportunity to catch the emotions, and we talked a lot about, giving space for our emotions and allowing our emotions to play out. I think that's really important to, how do we do that? It's like how do we, being conditioned as we are as men in this world to reject a lot of our emotions and feelings that we need to create space for and love and accept and process through. How do we do that? And it's the meditation for me is the way to create the space between the thoughts and our awareness of that. Or when the emotions come up, we can actually have that little bit of a gap where we can actually stay with it just enough to where we can recognize it and know, and possibly know how to work with it and move through with it. Okay, I got a question from Bill. Let's see if you can
Bring it up.
Okay, so I can put it right on the screen. It's
Nice.
it's from Bill.
Hey,
Thoughts
Bill.
about thoughts about how self-judgment depletes self-love.
Ooh,
Right?
yeah. You want to take this one, or you want me to run with
No,
it?
you just run with it. You go for it.
Okay. So self judgment is 100% a process of the mind, and love is a process of the heart that's supported by the mind. In my personal encounters with it, and so self judgment, it somebody once interviewed John Lennon about his process of songwriting, and he said that he would go into a creative state where he was just flowing, just allowing like the words that wanted to come through, the words that felt great. He would allow those to come through, and then later he would go back and cut it down and like move them around, but he wouldn't allow himself to edit while he was writing, because the part of the brain that's responsible for editing and the part of the brain that's responsible for the creative process, it's very difficult for them to work simultaneously. And so what I find is that when I'm in a space of self-judgment, when I'm like attacking myself and criticizing myself, really in a way, that is my mind trying to protect me, trying to take care of me, trying to like hem me in and keep me going in a specific direction that my mind thinks works really well. But it totally brutalizes the little boy inside of me, the little loving creature that I desire to be a lot more often. And it's really hard for me to say, Mateo, you're really awesome, and I love you, and you do great at so many things, while also saying like your teeth are weird, and that thing that you said last night, it didn't come out really well, and you just made a situation really awkward. Like if I'm beating myself up, it's hard to beat myself up and love myself simultaneously.
Yeah.
So it's like both tracks are real. Yes, I totally have made situations awkward. Yes, there are physical flaws that could be fixed through whatever process, and at the same time, I'm beautiful. And there are moments when I vastly improve situations by the things that I add to them. So both are true. It's just a matter of like, where do we want to put our attention? Do we want to put our attention on building ourselves and other people up, or do we want to put our attention on tearing ourselves and other people down?
Yeah. I think
Both
that's.
are available.
I think that you just brought up a really good point, because if so, how do we work with self-judgment, right? It's like, okay, so I get caught up in self-judgment, and it just sometimes it gets really discursive, and what I find is I get stuck in a trap of going around in a circle, and it's just I'm going deeper and deeper and deeper, and it's just undermining it's just I'm just getting tighter and tighter and tighter, as opposed to expanding, which is what my heart wants to do.
Yeah.
And so the the thing that I want to point out is, or talk about, is like, okay, so there is legitimate things that we may have done that we may need to take care of. Like, oh, okay, I did that. It was not good. Then I need to, instead of beating myself up over it, I need to do something about it. So there
Right.
are legitimate things that, the mind comes in, and it's actually, protecting us from continuing to do that over and over again. So
Yeah.
let's say we harmed someone, we said something hurtful to somebody, and then instead of losing sleep over it all night and beating ourselves up over how bad we are because we said that, maybe we go and write a note to that person, or we really see where our part was in that kind of a situation, and
Right.
and rectify that situation. So it's almost like there are things that come up as self-judgment that we can work with, we can work through, we can heal, and there are those ones that come up from the inner child stuff that comes up that are a lot harder to work with, and that the best thing we can do is we can identify them when they come up, and we're not a slave to being reactionary to whatever is happening. And so
Yeah.
I just wanted
Yeah.
to just share that a little bit on that one.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to acknowledge that self-judgment says I'm a bad person, and self-love says I'm a really good person, and being a human, sometimes I make mistakes. Those mistakes don't define me, but they do help me to see what my shadow does when I'm not paying attention, and then those are opportunities to clean things up, like you said, make amends.
Yep, and that's where forgiveness practice comes in, and we can
Yeah. See earlier video.
Yeah, see the last video. That's where the forgiveness just kind of gets wrapped up with the forgiveness practice, and that's another practice that we can do in order to have a clearer heart and a clearer mind, and just clean up our our stuff from the past in order to be able to show up in a more present and uncomplicated way. So I think it's time that we wrap this up. If there is
Okay.
anything that you would like to add in closing, please do.
Okay. I guess the primary thing is just that I feel really grateful to have gotten to share this space with you and to have this conversation with you. Not only to have it one-on-one with you, but also to have it in a public forum. I feel really, really seen and honored in this process. So thank you for that, Kadri.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for sharing in this. Everybody, please let us know where you're coming in from, and push those thumbs up and the love buttons so we can feel you and see you and experience you in this weird way. We can't see you. We just see your words and little hearts floating by and thumbs coming up. So please do push. The more you push, the more you write, the more we feel. And so, is there anything that you want to, any upcoming events or offerings that you have, Mateo, that you want to share with everybody?
Well, I don't have anything specific right now. As you mentioned, I'm out in Los Angeles. I just moved out here, and so right now my focus is grounding and kind of like setting up the foundation of my life here. But I am working privately with people, and I'll have classes coming up within the next month and a half, 2 months.
Cool.
So if anybody is coming through Los Angeles, or if you're based in LA, then definitely hit me up, and I'd be happy to help you with your personal self-love practices, with acrobatics, with physical practices that bring you more into your heart. Also communication. Just ways of connecting with other people in a loving, creative, and supportive manner. Yeah.
Cool.
Now, how about you? Do you have anything coming up that people need to know about?
I have a teacher training in September, a yoga meditation teacher training. I will be here in Costa Rica. It's a 3-week, 200-hour course. And it's going to be epic. We have people, I think there's like 8 different countries represented now. So we have a really beautiful kind of international crew that's going to come, and half of them are actually yoga teachers already. They're just coming for more yumminess and goodness. So if you're interested in that, you can check this out here, luminousheartinstitute.com. I'll put this in the description after the video is over, or it may already be in there right now. You can click on it, just check out what we're all about.
Yeah, I'm strongly considering attending that. And not that I need another teacher training in my life, but I checked out the website and it looks incredible. There's a part of my mind that's working on how am I going to get there.
Well, I love to have you, brother. And I'm also going to be at Wanderlust Tahoe. I'll be presenting the Aqua Yoga program there with Justin Bench. And if you're in the area, please come by and say hi. So that's pretty much what I have going on right now. That's kind of taking up all my time. And thank you, Mateo, and thank you, everybody, for showing up and joining us. And love you. That's all I can say. Love you, Mateo, and love everyone that showed up, and from the bottom of my heart. So until next time. And please, if this is going to be rebroadcast. If you have any more questions that after you've thought about what we just did, comes up for you, go ahead and put it in you can put it into the question marks or whatever it's called in the comment marks. Yeah. And so we'll definitely get back to it, and we'll throw some more words out there. Okay.
Amen.
All right.
Yeah.
Love you.
Well, thank you, Kadri.
Goodbye.
Love you.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Woo.